check. Yes. Hello, good morning, Blackan listeners, Blackan viewers. Welcome to another edition of JP Vibes, coming to you live from Blackan TV in Osaka, Japan. I'm your host, Louis, aka Jaja, and today's topic we'll be talking about, the diaspora, black diaspora, and the historical facts and the implications of it, So the diaspora's blacks, historic and modern, and the effects of the diaspora on the mindset of the black individual, in general. So to talk about that, to discuss about that, we have, the doctor of clinical psychology, a certified school psychologist, and a Pan-Africanist. He's been traveling all over the globe, expanding the knowledge and wisdom and mental health of Africans and Africans of black heritage, men, women, and especially children. Guys, let me introduce you to our special guest today, Dr. Umar Johnson, a.k.a. the Prince of Pan-Africanism.
Good Garvey Day. Glad to be here. Shout out to all the brothers and sisters in Japan, China, surrounding countries, and the continent of Asia. Good to be back.
Yes. Welcome to Blackan Radio. And guys who are watching from Facebook, YouTube, and Ustream, please try to tag the show, tag the video, even if it's finished, the recorded version, you can tag it to your friends who are interested in a topic like this. And also you can leave your comments below, and you can ask your questions. We have a line, a hotline actually. I'll be giving you, I think the information of the telephone number is on the explanation on Facebook. So towards the end of the show, we'll open the line and we can accept your questions, if there's some time actually. And also try to share the video also, and also like. So have some comments there so we can be able to engage, okay? So stay tuned and we'll be back. Yes, guys, welcome once again to JP Vibes. I'm Louis, and welcome.
Thank you, my brother. Glad to be here.
Good to see you. Good to see you. We're going to be having a good conversation today.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And, instead of an interview, I would like to have like a conversation with you, because it's a topic that's, very important to both of us as black people. And, before we start, let's have a little introduction of ourselves. You originally from, what part of the States you from?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Born and raised, still reside there.
Okay. So I saw you have an African name, Ifatunde?
Yes, I was given the name Ifatunde from Chief Olaitan of the Oyotunji African village. If you had a chance to see the Birth of a Nation, Nat Turner movie by Nate Parker, when the movie comes on, young Nat Turner is actually, his mother takes him to a spiritual reading.
Okay.
And that elder who gives the spiritual reading is Chief Olaitan of the
so he gave you that name?
African village.
Ifatunde. Yes. It's very Nigerian.
Yes, it is. It means
what's the meaning?
Destiny has returned.
Destiny. I love that.
Yes,
I love that. Yeah. I'm Louis Kwame, Boston. People call me Jaja actually.
All right.
And I have a strong Ghanaian root actually. My father is half Ghanaian, half Sierra Leonean, and his name is Kofi. Right. He gave me the name Kwame after Kwame
Kofi,
Nkrumah.
Born on
Friday or Thursday. Yeah, for me, Kwame is Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
My Ghanaian name is Nana Payina.
Okay. Cool. So and my mother has a strong Jamaican roots. From the Maroons.
Okay.
And her mother, my grandmother, brought her over to Sierra Leone.
Okay.
And when she was like a little girl. Huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I have both cultures in me, for the African side and the Caribbean side.
Yes, sir.
And I respect both, So I've been here in Japan for almost over 20 years now, and I came here to spread African art.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I came, I used to do a lot of African art exhibitions whilst I was studying Japanese, and then I had to go to college, university, in the Japanese university, study business law, and then came out, started working for a Japanese company, real estate company, and then I branched out 10 years ago and started my own business here.
Okay.
And now I'm doing like export business, used cars and used parts.
Okay.
Whilst running the Blackan Radio.
All right.
And I have my staffs here, So yeah, and I had a lot of experience here in Japan.
Okay.
And both good and bad, but mostly good.
Okay.
So I would like to talk about like people like us who are outside Japan, way in the Far East, in the diaspora, doing something, building a platform where we can be able to sit down and converse like this and share a knowledge out there. So this is the main thing. I wanted to talk about not only like things like the negative side, like discrimination or stuff like that. I want to talk about how we can find solutions, to better our, community or, stuff like that, So let's start the show. One thing I like to ask, because for me, a name, just like I was asking you about your name, right? A name is very important to any individual, okay? Whether you're black, white, or what, I've had a lot of, arguments and controversies about, just like the name of something you put on something gives that thing or that human being its destiny. Because you took the Ifatunde thing really serious, So, for example, even in religion, sometimes I had some arguments with, the name Jesus Christ. I'm not against the name Jesus Christ. But when I introduce names like Yahshua, okay, the Hebrew name of Jesus Christ, people say, I don't know that. Let's stick to Jesus Christ, Well, it's the truth, It's the truth that, Jesus Christ's real Hebrew name was Yahshua. And you have to, whether you accept it or not, just acknowledge it, that it's, even the name of God is Jah. All these things, we, sometimes have some arguments over it. So the thing I want to ask you is the name Africa. Okay? We all just take the name, okay, Pan-Africanism, Africa, I'm an African, which is good. I'm not against it, okay? Which is good. But what's the etymology of the name? Where did the name come from? What is behind the name? And because when you call somebody an African, or you say I'm an African, you have to know what is the depth of that name. Did it come from something good or something bad or something that has no meaning? And you're carrying it around as your identity, So let's start with that, from the very basics. What do you think?
Sure. Well, first of all, I am an African. I identify as African. I'm not interested in identifying as anything but an African. The word Africa comes from the word Afroika, which is a traditional Nile Valley word which means birth of man. That etymology comes from one of our greatest Africologists, Dr. Ivan van Sertima, who did the history of the word Africa. Unfortunately, because of misinformation that has been put out from many anti-African scholars, they have erroneously misled the community into thinking that Africa was named Africa by Leo Africanus. When the name was in existence.
That's one thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, that's incorrect. That name existed way before Leo Africanus was ever born. And again, it is a modification of Afroika, birth of man. But also when you look at the 3 syllables in Africa, those 3 syllables also exist in ancient Nile Valley language and tongue. So Af, Ra, and Ka, which also can be interpreted as being from the spirit of God or of the essence of God. So the name is an ancient name. It is a traditional name. It is an indigenous name. However, I would say this as well. The continent was never, ever named just one name.
Exactly.
Multiple names have always been used for the continent. We really didn't have to identify it until we had to identify those who did not come from it. So, being able to recognize people who were and were not African helped to give rise to the need to identify the continent as being different from an Asia or Europe, so forth and so on. But for me, names, although critical and important, are still superficial. Because they can be changed. Anything that can be changed is superficial, in my opinion. I think within Black consciousness, too much time is spent arguing and debating over what we should call ourselves. As far as I'm concerned, you can call yourself whatever you choose to, because just as there's no one name for God, there can be no one name for God's people. You cannot reduce supreme consciousness to one name. So whether it's Yah or whether it's Olodumare or Jehovah, Amen Ra, Chukwu, whatever name we want to use, they are all used from our particular vantage point so that we can express a reality that none of us can totally understand.
Okay.
And so because of that, I believe in freedom of naming supreme consciousness, whatever you believe it should be called. And I believe in freedom of naming us as a people, whatever you believe we should be called. So for folks who want to refer to us as Hebrews or Moors or Africans or Tamarians or indigenous people, whatever they want to use is fine with me. My issue is not what we call ourselves. My issue is what are we going to do for ourselves.
Okay.
Everyone in this room could be members of one family. We could have the same mother, the same father. You may change your name. He may change his. He may become a Muslim. She may become a Moor. I might become a Hebrew. But we're all still family. And so for me, focusing on the essence of who we are as family is more important than deliberating over the names.
Yeah. Okay. We might be on a different page on that. We're still on the same chapter, you know. My basic implication or my basic consciousness is, if you want to take one step to another, you know, you have to go to a direction. So you have to come from your hotel to Blackan Radio. You need to have a direction. And that direction can say, okay, I'll go through Middle Suji. It's a name. Okay? Go through and then turn the left corner or the third corner. It's a description. And enter so-and-so spot. Okay? You need a name to give you a focus and a direction of where you're going. That's why I was telling you, we as Africans, we have to, of course, Africa is good, you know, as we were saying, because of the African name have a lot of description of how it all started out. You know, there was there's an explanation that in North Africa, Carthage at that time, when the Romans came and burned it down, and the Roman general named that area Africus or something like that. Okay, and that's how that thing spread out.
The name existed before that.
Yeah,
it didn't start there.
Yeah. It didn't start there, as you say, right? But there are a lot of mixed up explanation about it. What I'm thinking about is to let not only men, women, and child know that, okay, they're African, know the essence. What's the meaning behind it? For example, you're talking about the children of God. Correct, right? That's the real, you said that's the real, it came from the sons of God.
The birth of man.
The birth of man.
And from the soul of God or spirit of God.
Yeah, the spirit of God. They have to know that that name carries spirit in them.
Yes.
And that spirit gives them a direction where they're going. That's why, because many of them don't know that, they lost love, they lost respect, and they lost the connection towards ourselves.
Okay.
So if we can be able, so I understand the point that the family is great, but before that, the kid has to know who he or she is in terms of his identity as an African, the meaning behind it. That's how he grows up. Okay. For example, my father called me Kwame. When I was a boy, I didn't know what Kwame is because and one day I just sit down and say, I know the Kwame Nkrumah was out there, but I didn't know he named me after Kwame Nkrumah. Okay. I thought it was just, Saturday. What is Saturday? You know? So I asked my father, I said, why did you name me Kwame? And he said, I named you Kwame, it's Saturday, but I named you Kwame because I respect Kwame Nkrumah. He's a Pan-Africanist, and he wanted the unification of Africa. You know? So I went out and started studying Kwame Nkrumah. That was what led me into the whole black history thing. It opened my vision and gave me a focus that I'm going to go out there and be like Kwame Nkrumah in the way I can. So the name is really important. That's what I'm trying to say, you know?
I follow you, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I would just say that, again, I think that sometimes within black consciousness, we can get so hung up on the semantics that we lose sight of what the agenda should be. If I look at a lot of our greatest thinkers in the last 50 years, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. John Henry Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, many of them did not have an African name, but yet they gave birth to a Pan-African intellectual, cultural, and historical renaissance that was greater than many historians and activists who did have African names. I'm simply saying that we have to consider the entire totality of the implications that come from having that name or not having it. So, for example, you know, I have been asked, why haven't you changed your name? And of course, I go by Ifa Tunde, but one of my arguments for that, I say I didn't change my name the same reason why Marcus Garvey didn't change his, or Amos Wilson, or John Henry Clark, and that is for us. The name is actually the icing on the cake, but it can never replace the cake. So let's bake this cake Once the cake is baked, then we're going to put the icing on it. But let's not mistake the icing for the cake, which to me, I think it all comes down to what the individual wants to do in terms of naming themselves. Some people, changing that name is critical. They need to do that first, and I respect it. I don't think anything is right or wrong. And then you have other folks like me who are not really caught up in superficials. You know, we are trying to change substance, not titles. And so for us, changing how we operate and move as a people may be far more essential.
And, superficial. To me, that's where we differ, The name is not superficial. It's the core foundation of what or who you are. You might take it as a title, but to some people, it's where you're born.
Right.
That's
right. And so, and I can respect that. I can respect the fact that for you, that name is the foundation. For me, it's not. You understand? But I don't think there's a right or wrong.
We're on the
you know what I mean? I think everyone decides for themselves.
Exactly.
How important it is on the agenda list.
So guys, study about the name and the meaning of Africa, and so the next question is, I want to say, we blacks we're going through a lot of struggles finding our identity. Okay, and because many of us have lost our identity, there is a lot of this, just as I said, disrespect. Blind leaves out there. They don't know what to do, and what fills their heart now is just hate and disrespect and stuff like that. How about how can we be able to teach not only men, women, but also kids, the cradle of civilization? All of what we see, all this technology that is now in this age, actually started in Egypt, in Kemet. It wasn't called Egypt at that time. It was called Kemet, meaning the land of the blacks. The black man started civilization in this world, okay? And it spread it out. Religion also is the same. Religion started in Kemet. This is before Islam came in. Hundreds of years before even Islam was born. Black pharaohs were building, pyramids, developing civilization, coming up with religions that even form the basis of many religions right now, even Christianity. So how can we go about teaching that we were really not only important, phenomenal, human beings at that time, and we still carry that genes in us, that we can be able to do it even right to this day? How can we be able to go about that?
Well, I think two aspects on that. One piece is it's very easy to teach African history to African children when you have institutions to do it in. Exactly. The problem is we don't have institutions in which we can teach. So in America, the UK, Canada, France, we're trying to force white people to properly educate black children as opposed to doing it ourselves. So once you create institutions for the teaching or indoctrination of African history and culture, it becomes easy. But as long as you're trying to get your enemy to teach your children who they are, then it's going to become difficult. So we have to decide how important that is, because if it is very important, then we should do it ourselves. In America, I say all the time, there was a movement in Philadelphia. Philadelphia was the first city, at least one of the first cities, that sought to require the teaching of African history in public school. I did not support it. I wasn't against it because I don't oppose anything that doesn't hurt African people, but I was not an advocate of it. And I was questioned about this when I was still a member of the Garvey movement in Philadelphia, Universal Negro Improvement Association. And when I was asked, I said very simply, as a Pan-African nationalist, not any kind of Pan-Africanist, but a Pan-African nationalist, we believe in self-determination. So anything that is to be done for us, we don't look for others to do. White people should not be teaching black children who they are or where they come from. No one lets their enemy interpret their historiography to their children. There's churches in every other corner. Why aren't the churches open? The teachers belong to these churches. History can be taught in the church, the community center. Why we want white folks to teach our children their history? To me, it is symptomatic of the lack of accountability and responsibility that African people need to take over their own destiny. That's for us to do, not the enemy. The other piece is this. when I go to prisons, there's a lot of brothers and sisters in jail who have knowledge of self, but they had no opportunity to create a reality for themselves. So after we teach African children who they are, we need to also make sure that they have an opportunity to be who they are in the here and the now. Yeah. I think sometimes our approach to solving our problems can be lopsided, where we focus totally on the past, but nobody's planning for the future and no one's addressing the concerns in the present. After they learn who they are, we must still see to it that there's an opportunity to manifest that African goodness in the here and now. So we got to fight the past war, but also the present and the future. Because if all we want is the history, the white man will give us that. Exactly. If we tell the world all we want the world to do is acknowledge we started it all, then the white man will say, fine, you started it all, but now we run it. And the Chinese man will say, fine, you started it all, but now we control it. Being the initiator is not the same thing as being the controller today.
Exactly. I got you. That's very important. That's very, very important. The thing is, we as black people, I have a lot of friends, a lot of good friends, and there's one thing that is lacking. I don't know whether it's something in the psyche of the black man. Is they don't have the motivation and the inspiration to go after their history, dig out the good things, harness it, and build something in the future. Maybe if you have like 10, I don't want to generalize though. If you have 10 blacks here, maybe half of them are like that. The other half would be trying to like find the basic necessary things to build on something. So because my concern is, why has other races, including the white, the Chinese, are coming in with their knowledge, stick it into our heads, and we accept it like that? It's a mindset. It's a mindset, and we don't even ask questions. That's another thing. That's another mindset. We don't ask questions. For example, somebody's coming and just tag us like that. They just style us. They just tag you and call your name, and then, oh, well, maybe that's nice. And then they fool you with mass communication, or that's cool. Okay, and then they go for it. Okay? The thing is, we have to learn how to get that fire in us. Of course, anybody who wants to conquer somebody, any nation who wants to, any race who wants to conquer another race, gonna instill their own, ideology that is, advantage to them. It's a natural thing, It's us who have to say, no, we are not that kind of person. No, you cannot style us or call us or term us that way. This is who we are. But we need that motivation, that fire in us that say, damn, I'm going to use this knowledge, not given to me by a white man, even though the white man will be trying to cover it and whitewash it and do. This is the core knowledge. I'm going to grip that one and use it and build something in the future. No distraction. You understand what I'm saying? You feel me, yeah? So why, as you say, why the white man or other races have come in and diluted our history and screwed up and messed up a lot of our, heritage, is because we just sit back with no, fire in us to do something about our own heritage. We just let it go.
Power is the ability to define reality and have the victims accepted as their own. One of the privileges of power is being able to determine how the powerless will think and behave. He who controls the resources and the jobs also controls the thinking and the behavior of those who need them. It's going to be very difficult for us to get our people to even want to be interested in African history, culture, and identity when there is no opportunities that manifest itself from that. I always say, it's easy for Chinese children to be loyal to Chinese culture. It's easy for European Jewish children to be loyal to European Jewish culture. It's easy for Anglo-Saxon children to be loyal to British cultural and nationality. Why? Because their people can give them jobs. Their people can provide opportunities for them. But when you look at African children, what can African people do for their own youth? And until our children see that we have an ability to put them in positions of power, they will, even if they knew their history, they would not identify with it if they don't see how it is practically useful to the here and now.
Well, in order to show them that it's practically useful, you got to already have something to show them. There's nothing there right now.
Exactly.
So what you got to do, you have to instill it on the kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to start from the kids. Even
if you teach them,
no,
even if you teach them,
there is a way. There's a way. This is how the black people from way back in ancient days, from Egypt, taught their kids. The first is like Nubia. They call themselves Nubia. Where they call themselves? Because their skin was gold.
Right.
They don't say black. I have a skin shining like gold. Why we don't have that mentality right now?
Well, but you're also talking about self-contained, controlled nation states and communities.
I'm talking about Nubia, how they go.
Yes, but the point I'm making is the reason they were able to do that is because they controlled the politics, the economics, the culture.
No, before they rose up, before they rise up, you know, they have to have that. For example, what I'm trying to say in a nutshell, the kids, of course, they might not see something that is encouraging to them now, but if you instill that knowledge in them and that self-identity that your for example, your skin color or your nappy hair is not what they told you there. Your skin's color is shining like gold. You're a man of gold. Your nappy hair is the hair of God. You know, these kind of things. If the kids have these kind of teachings in their head, that's what my father used to tell me. They would never feel like, you know, even if somebody would try to discriminate on them, they would just laugh it out. Because they will see the next man as a fool. Okay? Because they have that confidence in them. No matter what, I'm going forward because of who I am.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, even after that child has been given knowledge of self, they grow up, they go to college, or they get a job, they will sacrifice that knowledge and act as if they never even learned it.
Why is that?
If that is what they have to do in order to survive and succeed. The mistake that we're making is we want African children to identify and claim their rich heritage as they should. But after they do that, are we guaranteeing them an opportunity to survive and succeed? What do we own that allows them to comfortably espouse their African pride without necessarily jeopardizing their ability to take care of their families? All across the world, you see African people doing what? Participating in cultural amnesia. Voluntary historical amnesia.
The knowledge is not there. They lost their knowledge.
No. They have the knowledge. They have the knowledge. But I'm talking about the ones who do. They will still sacrifice that knowledge if there's no opportunity being provided by their own community for them to survive and succeed. In other words, the white man does not want to see black men.
I understand that.
You understand me?
I understand that.
So if we don't create a context that allows that type of self-love to thrive, it will die.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's create it now and here. For example, you know, you're a man of Pan-Africanism. When Garvey started out, Marcus Garvey, he started out.
The Honorable Marcus Garvey. The Honorable Marcus Garvey. The Right Excellent Honorable Marcus Garvey.
The king of Pan-Africanism.
All right. No Garvey, no Nkrumah. No Garvey, no Nkrumah.
Okay. When they started out,
yes, sir.
You know, they had nothing in their hands. Nothing. And they didn't see any future out there. It was, in America was the days of slavery. There's nothing bright out there. But Dr. Marcus Garvey, Honorable Marcus Garvey, had that fire in him. There was a quote that Marcus Garvey said. He said, "Black man, what is in thy bosom? Is it genius? Let's have it." He had that thing in his bosom. That's what we all have to have.
Yes.
You know? So if we have that, even those who have the knowledge and, going crazy, but they cannot implement it, if some of us have that thing in our life, that thing, and we're able to bring it out. For example, I'm in Japan, way in the Far East. I built this studio from scratch. Nobody helped me. But we're taking it one step at a time that we can have this conversation and give knowledge out there. Forget about those who have knowledge and don't know how to harness it. There are lots of people like that. Some might even have the knowledge and go against it. There are going to be people like that. But there are some of us.
And there's going to be a lot of people like that. if you don't deal with the reality that you have to create a self-contained environment and context in society that allows African pride to thrive. But as long as you have to get your jobs from white folks who don't want to hear about it, as long as you got to get your finances from Chinese who don't want to hear about it, no one's going to be interested in African pride if it's not practically beneficial.
We have to do something about it.
Yes.
Even the small community of us.
Yes.
We can be able to build on something.
Yes.
And eventually these guys can jump on board.
Yes.
Exactly. So, time is running so fast.
It's okay.
This conversation is getting really serious and interesting. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is Pan-Africanism, your field. And just in a nutshell, there might be some people out there who doesn't know about what Pan-Africanism is all about. Can you give us a little introduction?
Sure.
And,
I will define it in 4 simple concepts. Number 1, 4 principles. All African people, whether they light skin or dark skin, Muslim or Christian, whether they speak Zulu or Akan, Spanish or Portuguese, we are all members of the same human family. And that we should identify with being African before we identify with anything else. So being African is first. It's before your religion. It's before your professionalism. It's before your tribe, your nation. The race is first, as Garvey said. African family first. So that's principle number 1. Nothing supersedes our African identity. Principle number 2, there must be international political economic unification of African people in order to overcome white supremacy, but to also restore our African greatness. If there is no international operational unity, we will all fail. Okay? In other words, the sum of the parts is greater. Okay? The sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
Okay, so we must do it together. 3, self-determination. There is no white participation. There is no white marriages. There's no white dating. There's no white financing. Whatever is to be done for African people must be done by African people. And then the 4th principle is, as Africa goes, so goes all African people. So we would say that until we help build up the mother continent, all of us will be weak where we are. Because as Garvey said, a strong man is strong everywhere. Wherever you see Chinese, they strong. I don't care if you're in Africa. I don't care if you're in the UK, US, Canada, Japan. They strong. Wherever you see European Jews, they strong. Why? Because Israel is strong. China is strong. There's no such thing as a strong African people with a weak Africa. There's no such thing as a strong African people without a weak Africa. So all of us have to contribute to the rebuilding of the mother continent so that she in turn can contribute to the rebuilding of us in the diaspora. No one has ever said that all African people need to go back to Africa. Garvey never led that Back to Africa movement. The media created that. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said only...
You're talking about the Black Starliner, but Garvey was...
No, listen. Marcus Garvey never led a Back to Africa movement. Garvey never said all African people should go back. That is not a principle of Garveyism. What we say is those of us who have something to offer Africa can go back.
Okay.
As Garvey said, some of us are no good in America and will likewise be no good in Africa. Okay, we don't need black men with white wives going to Africa. Okay, we don't need all that. We don't need basketballs, footballs, weaves, and perms.
So, guys, you know what Pan-Africanism is all about. My father was really strong in these things. And I learned a lot from many of the books he had, and especially like Garvey's and Marcus. My life mentor is Marcus Garvey. I'm not really deep into it, The Honorable Marcus Garvey, I read some of his books, his poems, even his poems can inspire,
Yes.
And, just as you said, we're all in the diaspora, and a lot of us have a lot of talents to give, a lot of things to offer, okay? And for sure, we would like to be in Africa and do what we're doing right now. Here, for example, I'm building an internet radio station, okay? And I would love to have this in Africa.
Yes.
And call it like Blackan.
Yes.
Africa branch. That would be one of my huge pride, know. But there is a problem. And the problem is, when was the last time you went to Africa?
This past summer.
Okay.
Ghana, Togo, Benin.
You stay there for how long? Because
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
I go to Africa all the time.
Have you ever been there for like 6 months or?
Not 6 months.
Okay, because you actually know the land, the people, the way they think, the mentality when you live there for a long time. Okay, it's 2 weeks, 1 month. You might learn a few things, right? The thing about Africa is there are a lot of talents out there, okay, in Africa. But the way how to harness those talent, individual, the way how to harness those talent, the resources are not there, and most of the leaders are not focusing to build those resources.
No, they're not.
Right? I'm telling the truth. If the leaders in Africa, not even all of them, half of Africa, are able to bring these resources together, like institutions and professionals to come in and teach so and so and do all these things, even like put out adverts in social media that, if you want to, for example, if you have an internet radio station, you come to my country, I'll be able to help you and so build up. So these little encouraging stuff, how to harness we who are in the diaspora that have some talent that wants to contribute to Africa. If they're able to do that, we would be able to build something really, really significant in Africa.
Certainly.
Yeah. The thing is, the mentality of the leaders are always pulled down by a sin called greed. Greed is what is messing up Africa. The Japanese can be greedy, the Chinese can be greedy, even the white man can be greedy, but there is something amongst them that they put some of those greed aside and build something together. Because they see a vision that can benefit all of them in the future. Most African leaders, they take that vision and put it in their pocket or leave it for somebody behind them to come and build. And somebody who comes after them do the same thing. So the vicious cycle just keeps going on. And there's a lot of harness, gold, diamonds, talents lying waste. And they know that. They look behind their shoulder, they say, shit, the place is dirty, but beneath that dirt is gold. They know that. But why they cannot do that? Because of their mindset. How can we in the diaspora, for example, I'm in Japan. I cannot have a microphone and tell all the Africans there and, hey, let's straight up and do something. Because I remember 4 years ago, I even had an idea to have in Japan an embassy of Africa in Japan, like a Chamber of Commerce of Africa in Japan. I wanted to start that. I went to the Chamber of Commerce, I asked all these questions, get all these documents, and they told me that the Japanese, government told me, if we're going to do that, we need at least an agreement from 20 African countries, from the embassies, that, okay, yeah, we agree to this kind of plan. Let's have a Chamber of Africa in Japan that many African countries can come in, have information of people who live in Japan. And if we have that here in Japan, we can have that in any other countries. And we can. Okay. But the second stage now was to call these embassies in Japan and send them my letters, send them the plan and the vision I had. Some of these guys are not even in the office. Some of these, ambassadors, African ambassadors, they're not even in the office in the embassies in Japan. Even the staff, they don't have staff. Volunteers are in there, Japanese volunteers. They are not working.
I think what you're speaking to partly is the crisis in leadership that we have as a people. We put the wrong people in office.
Exactly.
Many of our African heads of state are Western trained, or at least Western sympathizers. Okay, most of them only go into office to prepare for life after office economically. Okay, and of course the West sets it up so that they will do nothing but steal and rob. This is all part of why they get put in office. And then of course something has to be said about the way in which the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund keeps a stranglehold around African countries by way of the leadership with the structural adjustment programs, the population control programs, the open market economy programs, so forth and so on. So there's a whole system here. And unless you are a very industrious, a bold, trailblazing African leader, you're going to do nothing but continue to pile up the debt on your people.
Exactly. And that's exactly what's going on down there. So I was thinking, I remember the same thing Kwame Nkrumah spoke about, the same thing Marcus Garvey was fighting for, even Jomo Kenyatta and all these guys. Have an organization in Africa that can be able to bring these people together.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the president, just people in that country that can share the same vision for Africa. Get that organization together and start building, have an agenda, have a vision, and start building and creating something. How can we connect to all of these not only Africans, but black people in general, in the diaspora, that can be able to connect to Africa and build something in Africa and get a real structure and strict format. That there would be no corruption, no messing around, but just work towards a common goal. If these Africans are really serious, they would do that.
I agree.
They would do that. But you know what? They're waiting for somebody to come in and do it for them. And the guy who can see an opportunity and come in and do it is a white man.
Yeah.
That is where we always leave the door open. And they come in and build something. And the psychology that, if it's a white man doing it, it's got to be good.
Yeah.
That's the psychology.
Yes, it is.
They're never able to see the sinister plan behind it. You know?
And now they're begging for the white man to come in and recolonize Africa under the name of investment.
So if they start something, and we in the diaspora see that, wow, these African leaders are really up to something here. They have an organization, they have a vision, they have an agenda. They're calling on us to do something here and there. I would bet you there would be millions of black guys who would go down there and do a lot of investments and stuff out there.
I always say that if I were a citizen of an African country, and of course dual citizenship is another issue that the African Union and the individual African states are sliding their feet with. They're not moving quick enough with dual citizenship. Ghana passed the law, but there's still no application or regulation for dual citizenship. Okay, but I always say that if I'm a citizen of an African country, I'm not voting for anyone running for office unless they can give me 3 answers. Number 1, what are you doing to empower African people economically?
Okay.
Number 2, what are you doing to limit the control of the wealth, the resources, and the land of this country from being dominated by outsiders?
Exactly.
Because if you don't empower the indigenous African population to be able to buy and own the land and the resources, then you automatically, by default, allow the whites and the Chinese and the Asians and the Arabs to come in and dominate your country's markets. And then the third question I have, what are you doing to build a revolutionary African curriculum for black children so that they can be able to espouse and project the African vision that we have for our future? Those 3 things are mandatory.
That's spectacular. I support that 100%. Okay, and I think the next thing you can do about that, I'm sure you're really busy now with, teaching kids about, African identity and everything. If you can have some time, I would do my best to help from Japan. Okay. If you can have like a show, like internet show, because we're in the internet age right now. Just have a show in which you can be in the States, I can be in Japan, and somebody in Europe, and somebody in Africa. That we have this state directed to all African leaders. This is a show that we want all African leaders and politicians to listen to. They can use their smartphone. And then we lay these things out to them. It can be recorded, it can be on Facebook. They can listen to it. And then they would know what we're thinking about out here. And then maybe, just maybe, 1 or 2 of them might say, yes, there is some real substance in what these guys are trying to do. Let's build something in Africa. Let's have an organization, just like these guys are talking, all over there, from Asia to Europe to America. We have these guys who have lots of vision and they want to help, they want to connect. Once they have that organization and they have the website and they have their own show that we can connect, I would tell you there would be a lot. It's gonna be not only about the problems about racism and how the white man is screwing us up. No, it's about the vision, how we can stick together and work and build and create things together.
Yes. Because
the discrimination is gonna be there.
Yes.
Always, there's gonna be something that's gonna distract you.
Yes.
But we of course we just have to no distraction. Yeah, it's going on, but we gotta build this thing. Just like Gavi. Gavi was damn focused.
Yes.
Even though they were pulling him there, trying to destroy him in all ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we have like a lot of Gavites around who can be able to do these things. You can lead it. I can, we can. I think the best tool is to have a show, internet show. It's not expensive, but it has the message that can reach every heart down in Africa.
Okay.
We can work on that within the year.
All right.
Once you have those three agendas, and then we break it down of how it can be done, and then we lay it out, there would be some more ideas that would come in and just make it concrete.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
With that, I think that's just my take. What's your take on it?
No, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. One of the things I'm planning for 2019 is a Pan-African International Youth Conference. I'm going to do it on the continent. We're looking at Ghana, Nigeria, or South Africa potentially. But I want to bring all the young folks from all the continents together so we can start putting together that media platform, that political platform, that economic platform. Because you have the youth. They're ready. They just need the leadership and the direction. Because they're not as focused on how we need to go about doing this.
Because the thing is, we talk about reaching these people because the only way we can be able to reach them is through the internet, and websites and like shows like these.
Which is important.
Really important, yeah.
No replacement for face-to-face dialogue, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So you use those platforms to get everybody focused and interested in the conversation.
Yeah.
And then we bring them together face-to-face.
Yeah.
Because I think that one thing we cannot let the technology do is put space between us. One of the weaknesses of the technological era is that it allows you, it doesn't force you to have to come together. As human beings, that touch, that hug, that face-to-face energy, exactly. We still need that.
Exactly, that's true. Okay, so let's before we go to the States, let's talk about Asia because we're in Asia right now. We're in Japan. Let's talk about Asia and Black history. Okay, a lot of people don't know that one of the early settlers in Asia were blacks.
Yes.
And sometimes people say, oh, well, the early settlers in China or even in Japan were dark skinned. Even the Japanese would say, what the hell are you talking about? But that's true, And for example, even in India, let's say the image that everybody knows, like Buddha. Buddha is a religion, Buddhism religion. Very popular in Asia. Okay? And if you go to all of these temples, whether it's in China, whether it's in India, whether it's in Japan, whether the Buddha is as small that you can put it in a palm or is as huge as a mountain, they all have a dark skin and nappy hair. Because that's an image they cannot change. They feel guilty to change it.
Right.
Because to them it's like a god.
Yeah.
If it's something else, they would have changed it, make it look like them way back.
Yes.
These are some of the, and there are many of these that even Buddha was black.
Yeah.
They don't know that.
Buddha, one of the ancient meanings of Buddha, B-O-O-D-H, Buddha, is the black one.
Exactly.
And of course, Krishna was black. Exactly. It means the dark one.
Yeah, exactly.
So
all of these, that's why this brought us back to what I was trying to say. We as black people have to keep our heritage and our history.
Yes.
We lose all these things.
Yes.
That's why we are fighting each other right now, because we don't respect each other.
Exactly.
If we had known and kept these things in our heart, I would be seeing you as a god. You said you'd be looking at me as a god. She's a queen,
Yes.
And there would be that respect and love and common vision to build together. These are the things we have to keep. We have to learn how to keep our heritage and know our history. You got to have a psychological reconstruction of African people. Yeah. I always say that until there is a psychological revolution, there won't be an economic one, a political, or nothing, because all changes begin in mind. And to that end, Frederick Douglass, my ancestor, said it's better to raise strong children than to repair broken men. And I think as African people, too often we are working from a reactionary standpoint where we have to undo problems that have already been created. Whereas if we would just do what we need to do up front, we would prevent a lot of these problems from happening. But in order for that to happen, there must be love. Only people who love themselves will say, you know what? We're going to do this so that problem never happens. We're going to put this in place so we don't have teenage pregnancy. We're going to put this in place so we don't have rape and molestation. We're going to put this in place so we don't have mass incarceration, homelessness, hungry people. Love
dictates that you act before the problem arises.
Yeah, exactly.
But with us as African people, that love isn't there. So we wait until something is done to us, and then we react to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And because of that, the white man always controls our actions.
It's a blueprint for them.
Yes.
Yes. So we have to change that mindset.
Yes.
And that brings us to something, we all face, racism, especially racism in Asia. It's everywhere, We're talking about racism even in the States, and what's going on in the States. Just a while ago, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, you have the president of the States, using some derogatory term, some nasty word referring to people from Haiti and in Africa, and encouraging, this racist mentality and all this stuff. Racism, to me, racism is something. I see the racist as somebody really. I feel sorry for them. They have no vision. They have no self-dignity. They're scared. They have no power within. So they always use that as not as a weapon, but as a way to navigate and let them feel empowered that they're better than somebody with color. That's why they bring out the racist shit, But within them, they are scared. They are losers, But we as black have to see them as they are. Sometimes we get really mad and really angry when these guys say something shitty about us, or bring some racist stuff towards us. We feel really, really angry. But there is an element to that these guys they are not as strong or as clever or as intelligent as they are. In fact, they are the opposite. That's why they're bringing these kind of, because the guy who is not a racist, he just takes everybody as equal. He sees everybody as equal, and he just goes about his business as if nothing, there's nothing in the world. The guy who is scared of somebody, or doesn't want somebody else, his another race to rise above him because he's weak. He wants to follow something, bring out a negative card to play.
But
what do you think about that?
And I agree with that. But the one thing we also have to be clear on is that racism is not about emotions. It's not about necessarily hate. It's not about attitude. It's very much logical, and it's about control of resources and control of opportunities. That's what racism is. The opinions and the emotions are simply part of the propaganda of racism that keeps it alive and that passes it down to the next generation. All groups have a culture first priority system. All groups do. It's just that the white man's form of culture first priority is a pathological, narcissistic type of a system. So his racism is the most inhumane, but all groups practice it. The problem is we don't. Black people are the only people on earth who do not put their race first. And that's why we end up last, because we are handcuffed to a colorblind multiculturalism that is suffocating us to death. Black people don't want to hear any talk about putting ourselves first. We are for everybody, and there's no way you can be for everybody and still have time to be for you. So what the white man is doing, he's supposed to do. What the Japanese is doing, he's supposed to do. I was watching a documentary on the hair care, Korean dominated hair care industry, and some brothers were complaining that the Koreans wouldn't sell hair products in bulk to blacks. And the Korean told the guy, we will never sell to you guys in bulk. You guys make churches, we do business. This is what he told them. And they were upset, but I said, you got to understand, that Korean cannot let you get a foot up on him, because he is dominating that industry. So his grandchildren's grandchildren, so his grandchildren's grandchildren will still be able to sell that to your grandchildren's grandchildren. So this is not about just the current generation. It's about domination for eras and eons to come. Napoleon Bonaparte, when he was asked about the Haitian Revolution, and someone said we have to go and put down Toussaint because he betrayed the French agenda. Napoleon said, this is not just about putting down Toussaint. We have to crush the Haitian rebellion so that we can discourage any attempt by any African leader in the future who thinks he could come against European power. They're not doing this for them. They're doing it from their grandchildren's grandchildren. And African people don't have that type of ethos, that type of principle, that type of code. We don't have a code that we live by. Everyone else has a code.
Yeah, that's the thing. What I was talking about. We got to know our history. If we have a history, locked down.
We also got to understand the politics of the time that we live in. So, for example, I know a lot of brothers and sisters who are very much adept when it comes to African history and culture, but they are very ignorant and uneducated when it comes to politics. In other words, they will give you the entire history of Nile Valley culture and then turn right around and says that we cannot practice race first. We cannot be nationalists. They can have all that and still come with a Jesus first mindset, a Muhammad first mindset. It must be African family first or nothing. It is Pan-Africanism or perish. That's where we are now.
I think what you're saying is really true. That mindset has to go.
It has to go.
It has to go. But first, the way how it has to go, we have to be able to know what we are. From way back in the days and how we've been here and how we're connected. That's why religion is really strong to in the black community. How we're connected to the Almighty. Okay, because I'm a very religious person too. And I'm sure our black ancestors were very religious too, because most of the names are
very spiritual.
Very spiritual.
There's a difference between religion and spirituality.
Spiritual, yeah. They were very spiritual too. That's why most of the names they name themselves are connected to the spiritual gods. So that being said, religion is okay for them, kind of like, bring everybody into focus and, at least get you going in a way. But you also have to have that, identity in you.
Yes. And a religion must be comprehensive. I think one of the weaknesses of African people is that
too much on religion, right?
Yes, we over-rely on God without question. But the other problem, our religion doesn't deal with our political economic reality. We're the only people who have to go one place to pray and another place to organize. The Jew can pray in the synagogue and he will organize politically and economically in the synagogue. The African is the only person on earth who doesn't feel that he can deal with his political economic agenda in his house of worship. We are split. And until we make that thing whole, we'll never be able to move out.
That's another point. Over dependence on religion.
Yes.
Okay. That's one thing. And of course, we have to know our history and the good things about it. And what you're talking about slavery, it has a political side too, which, and economic side too, because that's how slavery all started out. They went back to Africa because of, they can make money out of it.
Right.
Out of black people.
But white supremacy ain't about economics.
It's all about
slavery began about economics. But the white supremacy that underpinned slavery was not primarily financial. It's about white genetic survival. Okay, racism doesn't exist for money. Racism exists to ensure that the white DNA perpetuates on the planet.
That's gonna be even among creatures. That's they want to keep the DNA. So it's gonna be there. At the same time, it's gonna be economic. Okay, it's gonna be economic.
Capitalism and racism, the husband and the wife. Racism is the husband. Capitalism is the wife. You can't have one without the other. You can't have one without the other.
Exactly.
Wherever you see capitalism, there's racism. Wherever you see racism, there's capitalism.
It's a bread and butter thing, right?
Husband and wife.
Okay. So and another thing is, as I was saying, this racism comes out of inner insecurity also. Because there are a lot of white people out there, even Asians, who they are not economically rich. They're not rich. They're not thinking.
But they still have white privilege, though.
Well, they have white privilege in some way. They're not rich, and I don't think they're even thinking about keeping their DNA, running for the next generation. But they feel scared when they meet a black man because there's an innate, instinct in them that when they meet a black man, they meet a strong man. When they meet a black man, especially if he looks successful or intelligent, they're scared. It's something just psychologically inept in many of them.
And part of it comes from the fact that a white man looking at his equal in the black man. So let's say you have your radio show. Let's say you meet a white man who has the exact same thing that you have. In his mind, you automatically exceed him.
Exactly.
Because he knows you had to go through 10 times
more difficult
than what he had to, and you still showed up at the same place and time.
I have that thing all the time, brother. All the time. What you exactly I have it. I can feel it. I can smell it when I meet some of them. it's something just ooze out of jealousy and envy.
Yes. How did
he managed to get to this level?
Yes.
You know. So in that sense, you know, some of these people, when I meet them sometimes, you know, it's just like I feel pathetic for them. Because if you can be that weak, I don't think your life would be.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's weakness to me. So I don't.
It's very weak.
It's weakness to me, you know.
Yes.
So I don't even take it more serious. I just focus on what I'm gonna do and go on with it. But the pathetic side of it is when your black brother believe these guys. That is the thing that really, you know, hits my heart. I don't care whether a Japanese diss my show or diss my show,
right,
or my program. I don't care whether a white man say this or that. But when a black man go around you, something that can benefit you in the future,
right, and
this your show or your program or what's something you're trying to build that would benefit him down the line, he doesn't have the vision to see that. When he start, you know, something just as small as greed, jealousy, envy, and all this nonsense. And when everything comes down, they just sit back now in the same dat hole and feel confident or feel satisfied because you didn't get where you wanted to go.
Right.
That's a bad mentality.
Yes, it is.
What do you say about that?
Well, that mentality, that crab in the barrel, that post-traumatic slavery disease mentality is at the heart and soul of why we haven't made more progress as a people. The fact that so many of us would rather see a brother or sister fail than succeed is at the heart of why we cannot move forward. And guess what? If you're selfish, if you're jealous and envious, you don't have a collective we first mentality. Because if I truly have a we first mentality, I have to want you to succeed. Because your success is mine. So whenever you see jealousy at play in the black community, you're dealing with Eurocentric values and principles. There's no such thing as being African-centered, but I'm jealous of another African man. You're Euro-centered. And you don't recognize it.
That's very negative.
Yes.
And I get that sometimes, and it saddens me up, you know. And we have so much resources and talents that we can come together and build things together. But, you know, they would listen to some negative rumors, and half of them would know that the rumor is a lie.
Yeah, but they will say it anyway.
Exactly.
Because it ain't about the truth.
Exactly.
It's about seeing you fail.
Exactly. And that is sad. We have to change that type of mentality. If not, we cannot move from one step to another.
And that's why I believe it has to begin with the children. It has to begin with education.
Okay.
You know, one of the reasons why I want to build a residential academy ultimately is because our parents, black parents, are teaching the children how to behave like coons as well. By the time the black boy is 10, he's already been made into a coon. He's a baby coon. His father taught him how to hate on other black men. His mother taught him how to hate on black women. So the child is made like the parent. So if the parents are not psychologically healthy, the children won't be either. So there must be a system that takes the child away from the parent to prevent them from being indoctrinated with that same mental cancer. It keeps recreating itself.
It's indeed a cancer, right?
It's a cancer.
It's a disease. Yeah.
It's worse than cancer.
That's
Self-hate is worse than, and it's contagious because you can take a positive African, put him around a whole bunch of negative Africans. After a while, he's gonna be just like them. It's contagious.
Yes.
Post-traumatic slavery disease is contagious. In fact, I need to put one of the white things on my face that the Japanese women running around with before I catch coonism.
Okay, tell me. I just want to ask you a little bit about your projects in you know, empowering and educating.
The main thing is the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. It looks like we're either going to go to school in Chicago or one in Delaware. I'm getting those looked at now so I can see what the rehabilitation cost is going to be. And once I get back from Japan, I'm looking to make a decision on one or the other based on that cost. Because we're only working with a certain amount of money. Okay, so I'm going to see what they say. And if, you know, one is definitely going to be more cost efficient than the other, that's the one we're going to go with. I get a lot of love in Chicago. A lot of love, you know, in the Delaware area. So for me, I'll be fine either place. So I'm just going to look at the numbers and see what happens. That's really the next stage for me. You know, the speaking, that was the stage that's coming to a close. Now it's time for the school now, the institutions. It's time for institution building because we don't have infrastructure. There's no place.
We really need it.
We need it. There's nowhere you can go in the diaspora outside of Africa. Nowhere. Caribbean included, where you can find a black community that owns its own hospital, bank, school, and supermarket in the same place. You cannot find it. It does not exist in the UK. It does not exist in Canada. It does not exist in the United States. You may have one of those institutions. You can't find all four. So you see Chinatowns all over the world. Little Italy all over the world. You can't find an Africa town anywhere outside of the diaspora.
It comes to the
wherever we are, someone runs our economy. You can't find a place on earth
because we don't have confidence in ourselves.
Exactly. Even in Africa. Someone is running the economy.
So that's what we were talking about, the mindset. We got to change the whole mindset, you know.
And part of changing that mindset is dealing with the fact that religious indoctrination, not just church, black religion completely speaking, has made us comfortable not wanting to have control and power. Church has blinded black people into believing.
Made them too lazy, I would say.
Well, not only that, we're taught that power is the prerogative of the devil. People who deal in power, control, authority, that's evil. You're supposed to be humble and meek and broke and poor, and those are the people who God blesses.
That is the negative indoctrination.
The church has very much given us an anti-economic empowerment paradigm.
Well, you know, it's, you know, the what should I say? Something that we have to wash our subconscious knowledge about that. You know?
Yes,
it's something that we have to deep down. It's you gotta, from the psyche to the subconscious. We got,
and it's intergenerational conditioning.
Exactly. I think this, you know, most of the people who believe or who depend too much on the church should go to church and pray that they get removed from this, you know, negative indoctrination about themselves and stuff. But it wouldn't happen that way. You know, what I was thinking about the schools and the institution you're talking about. You know, to have a physical institution costs money.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of paperwork and, you know, a whole lot of red tapes also. So I was thinking, whilst you're working on that, there would be a lot of people out there hungry for knowledge and wisdom, you know. Why not, like, set out, start an internet, you know, from the internet, an internet institution.
We may grow to that. We may grow to a cyber platform where, let's say your son is in Ghana, hypothetically. You want him to be an FDMG student. Well, he could get on his computer, tap in, and he's in the class. They can see him on the screen.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. We're going to evolve. I don't want to start that. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Education is all about interaction. Education is a social activity. You lose, there's a process loss when you put everything on a computer as opposed to being in your face. When a student has a question, he needs to ask the professor right here, right now. There is so much to be gained from the physical interaction. One of the biggest goals of education is socialization. You have to teach black kids how to work together, how to get along with each other, conflict resolution without violence. That can't be taught behind a computer. So I am not a fan of internet-based learning for children. I am not a fan of it. We will expand to a cyber model, but still, even with the cyber model, those children will be required to come to the school physically and participate a couple weeks out of the year. I am very much old school. I am very much Booker T. Washington. The reason why internet-based learning is so popular with children is because it is so cost-efficient for the schools. See, if I go to an internet-based learning, you know how much money I save on teachers, facilities, insurance.
Exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
But it's good for business. It ain't good for the learners, though.
Okay, well, no, business is good. When I say business, I don't want to say business, though. If you're trying to start up something and you're looking for funds and sponsors, or you know, and there's a struggling path along that line,
right?
And the knowledge is there, sitting down there, you know, and you're not like, you know, giving it. If just listen what I want to say. Huh? The knowledge is there, and there will be somebody in Africa or somebody in Europe or, you know, in Jamaica or in the Caribbean who wants to harness or receive that knowledge here and then. Why not? Whilst you're building the school, why not? Of course, meeting and interacting is the best, but giving that knowledge out through, you know, a systematic, professional internet institution might be another way to start out. You can start both of them simultaneously and see what's going on.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah?
That's not my model. Face to face. The secret weapon of FDMG is Dr. Umar Johnson in your child's face. They got to feel me. They got to learn me. They got to know me. You understand? There is no replacement for that rich, qualitative human exchange. Do you understand? And I'm very serious about it. It's like therapy, right? Let's say we're doing therapy. I'm the therapist. You're dealing with alcoholism, hypothetically, okay? Therapy in your face and therapy on your cell phone is two different things. There is a significant loss of qualitative human exchange that if I got to do therapy with you on the iPad.
If you start the online thing, you would have more people who would like to come in and meet you.
Well, that may be true, but I quality over quantity for me.
Okay.
The other thing too, I have to make sure I perfect the operation before it gets replicated so you can work out any kinks. See, you go worldwide that fast. See, people say, why don't you just put your school in a homeschool program? Sell it to the parents. They could teach the kid at home, right? Hell no. Why? Because I don't know how you teach. I don't know how he teach. I don't know how she teach. The curriculum means nothing. It's the pedagogical delivery of the instruction. School is nothing but the quality of the people teaching in it. Curriculum is nothing except it is being delivered effectively.
I know that. You can have physical school and but you can have some rotten teachers in there.
Yes.
So it doesn't.
Well, you got to have both. Ain't gonna be no rotten teachers in my school. You won't have no job.
It doesn't mean you have to go and meet the teacher there to have a quality. You can have some really bad teachers, even though you meet them.
Yeah.
Well, you can have some really good quality knowledge online.
But what I'm telling you though, you can have knowledge. But at FDMG, we got to take that knowledge and we have to make sure that that knowledge is actually internalized and digested into the child's long-term memory.
Okay.
You see, through repetition, that I don't know if the parent going to give them at home. Through a repetition, they're not going to get on the computer. We always say this in the classroom.
Okay.
There's the lesson you intended to teach. That's the lesson you intended to teach, the curriculum. This is the lesson you intended to teach. There's the lesson you actually taught. And then there's the lesson that was learned by the child.
Okay.
I got to make sure that the lesson we intended to teach is actually the lesson that's learned by the child. The only way I'm going to do that is to have that child in my face. Garvey!
Yes, brother. Okay, so we've gone through most of the questions. I want to open the lines, for anybody who's out there watching us, viewing us, and if you have any questions, please call this number that you see on your screen. It's not on your screen. It's on the text, actually. Yeah, it's 050. The number is 050-3136-0250. So if you want to have ask a question to Dr. Umar, you can call in and we can answer your questions. Okay, whilst we're doing... Yes. Yes, so whilst we're waiting, let's talk about your events tonight.
Yes.
So where are you going to be tonight?
Where am I going to be tonight, brother? I don't have the information by heart.
We're going to be at an Indian restaurant about, let's say, 30 minutes from here.
What's the name of the restaurant?
It's
Matilda Indian Restaurant. The Matilda Indian Restaurant tonight. What time?
In Osaka. It's from 5 to 8.
From 5 to 8. Doors open up at?
5.
At 5. So Dr. Umar Johnson will be speaking tonight in Osaka, Japan. The Matilda Indian Restaurant in Osaka, 5 until 8. Make sure y'all come. Prince of Pan-Africanism. I brought some hoodies for y'all, some white, unapologetically African hoodies. I don't know if we're going to get them in time. I brought some red, black, and green flags. Also brought some DVDs, so hopefully, because the luggage is being delivered, hopefully we'll get it in time to get it there to the brothers and sisters in Osaka. And then Sunday we're in Nagoya at Lynx Bar. The Lynx Bar in Nagoya. Sunday, what time? From 5 to 8, Dr. Umar Johnson will be in Nagoya at the Lynx Bar from 5 until 8. Come on out. I'll definitely have the hoodies and t-shirts and DVDs by then. And then I'm over in Shanghai on Wednesday and Thursday, I believe, brothers and sisters. Say that again.
What? The caps?
The caps? I ain't bring no caps. I say you one. I know you want one. I got you. I got you.
Look at me here. Oh, there.
Okay, I got you.
Just one,
I got
one
you.
more time. One more time. One more time. Where's he gonna be today?
He's gonna be at. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have to hold this? Okay.
Okay. You have the mic.
Oh, you got it. Yeah. Okay. He's going to be at Matilla Restaurant, and it is at. Am I speaking that loud enough?
I think they should see.
They should see me. Okay.
You can go to that. Come over there.
Thank you. Thank you. So where should I look? Over there? Okay. Hi everyone. All right. So tonight, where should I? Where do you want me to stand?
Over there. Here? Yeah. Turn around. That one. Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, hi everyone. All right, so we're going to be tonight at Matilla Indian Restaurant. This is the address. It's Hira Matsu Ogira Building, second floor, 1-6-14, Dotonbori Choku. That's what I said? Dotonbori. And the number, if you want to Google map it, is 0664840480. Okay, and also if you look at our flyer, you can WhatsApp me if you get lost, but there's the links to the restaurant there as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, one more announcement. So tomorrow from 5 to 8, and also tonight it's also from 5 to 8. We're going to be at Link's Bar at Sakae, and this is not in Nagoya, 9-3-1 Nakaku, excuse me, on the 4th floor. So that's from 8 to 5 tomorrow. And if you guys will let this, please WhatsApp me my number and your number. DJ Mario number is on the flyers. You can contact us on WhatsApp, okay?
And y'all can also add me on WhatsApp.
Yep.
If y'all need to reach Dr. Umar Johnson, 215-989-9858. USA number again, 215-989-9858. You can add me on WhatsApp and message me that way. Or you can email me, Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com, DRUMAR Johnson at yahoo.com.
Beautiful. Okay, so whilst I just put a number online, so if somebody can see it, they can call in. But I have a question here from DJ Super Mario. Yep. So the question is, actually, he sent me 3 questions. Okay. One is, why are Western countries still meddling in African affairs?
Because Western countries cannot survive without African resources. One thing about, human existence that we have to understand is, for whatever reason, when God made the world, he made Europe dependent on Africa for resources. That's just the way it goes. And because the wars against colonialism in Africa never completely eradicated the control of the resources. Most African countries, they got a flag and they got an anthem and they got a president. They did not get control of their resources back. I don't care if you're dealing with Anglo Gold in Ghana, South Africa. We don't control the resources. And the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, and one of the reasons Barack Obama was made president was to go back into Africa and make the continent safe for Western exploitation. When we stop letting the white man take resources out of Africa for cheap and for free, that's when you know Africa's serious.
Okay. And question number 2. How is the mass incarceration of black people in America affected their lives?
Well, mass incarceration is the single biggest cause of the destruction of the black family. Taking fathers away from their children, taking mothers away from their children. In some cases, the mother and the father are taken away from the child. So that is why we got so many homeless children, adopted children, foster children. It also gives rise to all types of social ills, drug abuse, alcoholism, the LBGT crusade. So many other issues going on in the black community are the direct result of the mass incarceration war. People say that slavery destroyed the black family. Nothing could be more false. We were still married through slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow. We were married. You don't start seeing the decline of two-parent homes in the black community in America until the 1970s. Why? That's when America started deindustrializing the inner cities. They started taking away the jobs that paid the bills, and they brought in the crack in the 1980s. The CIA brought the cocaine in, and black men started selling it, and that led to the largest mass incarceration campaign in human history. So it is the government that's responsible for the decline in black marriage, not black men themselves.
Right on. So, and then one last question is, are Western countries responsible for creating disease such as AIDS and Ebola just to eliminate African people?
Oh, without question. And it's been well documented. There's a book called Emerging Viruses that needs to be written. This white doctor, forget his name. He's one of the top scientists in the world. He proves very much emphatically so that all these diseases were created, and most of them to get rid of black people. There's a black homosexual, Dr. Boyd Graves from the U.S. the Navy or the Air Force. He contracted AIDS. He began doing research on it. He wrote a book called State Origin. State Origin. Make sure you read State Origin. He's dead. He was killed by the CIA because he wanted to bring charges against the United States for manufacturing a disease to get rid of black people. He's dead now. They killed him before he actually put the charges out. Everyone knows that AIDS was created to destroy black people.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Just last night, here in Japan, many people really do not know. They look at black people and they often think, oh, well, black people, started AIDS. AIDS started in Africa with monkeys. So just last night, I had to educate a person. And I told him, I said, hey, AIDS did not start in Africa.
No, it did not.
If anything, it started in New York at Studio 54. So they started laughing at me. They was like, oh, you just saying that because you're a DJ. I was like, no, AIDS did not start in Africa. Stop that. And then the person told me, it was like, well, almost 90% of Japanese people believe that all Africans has AIDS.
Wow.
And I said, and I was like, wow, that's really unbelievable.
Wow.
So the stereotype of Africans being lazy, Africans being having AIDS, disease, and me and Louise, we talk all the time. I know I am African.
Yes, sir.
First.
Yes, sir.
First, black Superman.
That's right.
I am African. And a lot of people just, they fail to accept that fact. So if you can please, one more time, explain, where did AIDS come from?
AIDS was invented by the United States Army Biological Weapons Lab, Fort Detrick, Maryland, where they manufactured so many other diseases as well as AIDS. West Nile, bird flu. In fact, many cancers were created on the road to actually coming up with AIDS. So it's definitely man-made, born in America. It is born in the USA and transported to Africa. And this is why African countries have to be really careful about accepting all these Western medications and immunizations. All of this stuff is laced with different types of diseases. And according to Emerging Viruses, the doctor, he alleges that they even have airborne forms of AIDS, but they don't release them because they can't control who gets impacted by them. Biological weapons is a major industry, creating diseases to get rid of people so it doesn't look like you're actually politically assassinating entire groups of people. It's very major, very major. In Africa, the abortions, the hysterectomies, all of this stuff is part of this depopulation campaign. Remember now, the United States government considers overpopulation to be one of the biggest issues in the world. Whose population is overpopulating? They're not talking about white folks because they're the smallest group. They're talking about black people. Controlling the birth rate of black people has been it's almost like an addiction that white folk have had for the longest time. Going back to Margaret Sanger and the Negro Project in New York City to get black leaders to encourage black women to get abortions.
Yeah.
It's like their mission.
Yeah,
It's their
yeah,
mission.
exactly. It's like a mission, and you know, like just like CB was saying about some Japanese. A Japanese friend of yours tell you that 90% of blacks are
No,
African.
90% of all Japanese.
All Japanese
Believe
believe
this.
that. But I think that guy is a dumb fool. You know.
I do.
You know, when I say dumb fool, not all Japanese are like that. You know, not 90% of them are like that. I think the guy who you talk to is just a fucking racist.
Right.
You know, it's just like having a bar talk somewhere. You know, about China or like Japanese. Oh, maybe 70%, 90% of Japanese women are yellow cab. You have some foreigners who say this shit. You know. You know, just these are foolish statements. Just like, oh well,
What's yellow card?
yellow cab. You know, like.
No.
Oh, a taxi.
Yeah, yellow cab. You don't know when they say a Japanese woman is a yellow. You know the
Oh, okay, I get
you know the meaning, right? You don't know the meaning.
Tell me later.
He means a B word.
I don't know that stuff.
Yeah, it's
man.
like a B word. It's like a B word. You have, in other words, easy to pick up.
Okay.
You know, you have some stupid, you know, foreigners who would go in and, you know, say stuff. Oh, well, he would say, oh, well, 90% of foreigners believe that shit. No, they don't. You know, and it's the same thing. You know, this stupid Japanese guy say, oh, all 90% of Japanese people believe Africans have AIDS. Is a stupid lie. He just want to say that because he's a fucking racist. You know, there's a lot of clean Japanese out there who doesn't believe that thing, and you know, some of them don't even know about, you know, African AIDS. You know, so if I were you, I would just say you're a fucking racist and you're dumb, ignorant, and you're spreading lies. You know, when you meet this guy, tell him I say so.
Will do.
I have a question from somebody on Facebook Live. Their question is, what can we do to be more united? Because that's one thing I'm starving for, and he's making reference until African Americans and African Africans. And he's actually my best friend from the Congo's brother, and he lives in America now. He's been there for quite some time.
Okay.
I think that
Pennsylvania, maybe he lives there.
I think that we have to gravitate to like minds. Everyone isn't going to go along for this journey that we have to take as a people to rebuild ourselves. You have to find people who actually are whose frequency is operating at the same level as yours. You know, if you have a Pan-African consciousness, you got to find people who have that Pan-African consciousness. If you're about African unity, you have to find people who are also about African unity, because a lot of black people don't want to see anything but conflict. You know, we have a very conflict-based consciousness and a conflict-based community. You look at black music, what sells black music? Conflict. That's all they talk about. You watch any black music show, the whole show is talking about conflict. That's all they care about. Who don't like who attack who's sleeping with whose wife. The whole thing is conflict. Reality shows, conflict. Even within the black consciousness community, conflict. So you have to separate yourself from that type of energy and gravitate to like minds. Me, I don't have an issue building with brothers and sisters on the African continent. I've never had a problem building with brothers and sisters on the African continent because we are operating at the same frequency. You know, so it's all about where you are in your consciousness. If you're a self-hating Negro, then you're going to attract self-hating Negroes. But if you're a positive, progressive brother or sister, then you will attract like minds. I don't think there's an issue with us working together. I think we have to stop buying into the stereotype that Africans don't want nothing to do with black Americans, whatever the hell is a black American. In that African in America don't want nothing to do with
you
Africa.
know, that's a mentality I really hate, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, bringing this African and African American,
Yeah.
you know,
It's nonsense.
that's nonsense, man. That's,
Stop focusing
why-
on where the slave
yeah,
shit drop you off and focus on where it
exactly.
picks
Why
you
can't
up.
you? There's so many common goals you can find and work
Yes.
together with.
Yes.
They're just looking for some little negative.
Yes.
Even if among themselves they can find negative things among
Yes.
themselves. You know, so
Yes.
why go all out and say, oh well, you know, Africans and African Americans, they don't work together. There are many ways they can work together
That's
if
right.
you find it, if you look for it.
That's right.
You know, so just don't focus on the negative side of it. Just stick to the positive side. I think, you know.
Hi, I have one more question from one of the viewers. This is Jody Oden in Akron, Ohio, my baby sister. She said, what did you think about the H&M advertisement that happened recently with the little black boy? Mm-hmm. Did you see that?
The monkey thing, right?
I thought it was ridiculous.
Okay.
You know, I thought it was unacceptable. It bothers me that the mother, it appears that the mother had no problem with the child wearing it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that link on Facebook. I don't know whether it's really true or not. Only unless I see a video.
Okay.
If I see a video, then I can believe something.
But the child should have never had that on.
Yeah, but
I'm not surprised they did it. I may be surprised if the parent allowed it to be done, but I do know black people do anything for money.
Well, apparently she's African descent, lives in they're from the Netherlands.
Okay.
And she mentioned about how he was trying on clothes all day, so he had like multiple different so she didn't know exactly they was going to pick that photo. So she mentioned like, oh, he had many various types of shirts on, and basically people should just be quiet. He's only modeling, and he didn't hurt anyone.
Just for money.
Yeah, we do anything for money.
Yeah,
that's another problem we have. You can pay us to do anything.
Yeah, that's the message you send out there. That's why the other races can figure out a plan how to.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy.
Dismantle us so easily. Just throw money in there. Or, just we gotta have something that can that bond us so tight we cannot really separate from it.
Right.
That's because that's something other races have. No matter how you throw money at them or this that. There's a bond there.
Exactly.
So tight,
there's a sacredness of the culture that cannot be exploited or misappropriated.
Exactly. We blacks, we have weak links. We have to strengthen those links.
We sell anything. We don't have anything sacred. There's nothing black people won't sell to somebody who's not black. We will sell African spirituality. I mean, look at all the white people who go to Africa now, being initiated into the traditional spiritual systems. Ghana, Nigeria. Now you got these white priests walking around with 5 African wives, fat, nasty white man. Okay, we give them that. You got white priests of voodoo now. We gave them hip hop. We gave them black music. We gave them black food. There's nothing we got where you can say nobody is allowed to participate in this.
We just have to control
us.
Yeah, we just have to control our heritage.
Yeah,
we let it loose too much that people come and take.
Well,
we have to know how to keep it.
That's because we handcuffed to multiculturalism. Black people are handcuffed to colorblind philosophy. We're the only people who practice it. Nobody else. McDonald's could exploit Kwanzaa and Kente.
Well, as Bob Marley say, free yourself from mental bondage. There is the key right under your nose. You just have to look for it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're coming towards the end of the show. It was a very interesting conversation.
Yes,
Dr. Umar,
yes, my brother.
Very good to see you here.
Same here.
And I want to thank all those who were watching. And please don't forget to tag and link, like and, spread a link out, copy and paste the link somewhere in your blog or somewhere. And make comments of the video. Even the recorded version would be up on YouTube. And also on YouTube and Facebook, because we have also live streaming on Facebook on Ustream, but that's not going to be up after the show. But on Facebook and YouTube, the video is going to be there. So please share, tag, and like. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be seeing you next time for the next episode of JP Live. Thank you so much.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Umar.
Black Power. You know what, Mary?